Yeah, we're going out there and making more videos, responding to tweets, because there's nothing else to talk about, and plus I'm going on a trip, so I have to pre-record videos. This was recorded on Friday, August 2nd. And what I wanted to do was go out there and respond to a tweet made on Western Hockey Scouts' Twitter account. They are a former 15-plus year WHL and USHL hockey scout who now does freelance amateur hockey writing on the internet. And they made a tweet yesterday, or it's today for me, technically like a few days ago for you, that I thought was super interesting and I think opens the door to more conversations than we might have anticipated. So, let's go out there and read this tweet from Western Hockey Scout. Is ELIAS Lindholm's contract going to be as bad as Jonathan Huberdeau's? He had an expected goals for percentage of 44.7 in Calgary and 44.55 in Vancouver with legit wingers. Huberdeau was 51.12 and got better with Igor Sharangovich. Boston didn't watch Calgary last year, I don't think. And my immediate instinctual reaction upon reading this tweet, not even like thinking about it, I just saw it and reacted to it. I was like, okay, no, it's not going to be that bad. Right? Right? Those expected goals for percentages are not great. And some people might be saying, okay, what the hell does that even mean? Expected goals for percentage essentially means when you are on the ice, calculate the amount of expected goals that your team has, and calculate the amount of expected goals that the other team has, and you ratio them against each other. So you want your expected goals for percentage number to be over 50%, because it means that whilst you are on the ice, on average, your team has better chances at scoring goals than the opponents. If your expected goals for percentage number is under 50%, it means that your opponents collectively have more scoring opportunities and expected goals compared to your team when you are on the ice. So, ELIAS Lindholm, getting negative expected goals for percentage numbers in both Calgary and Vancouver is quite alarming. And then you have Jonathan Huberdeau on the other side, who actually did have a positive number in the Calgary Flames system. And just to illustrate how bad the Jonathan Huberdeau contract is, it's $10.5 million a year till the end of 2031. This previous season, Huberdeau had 52 points in 81 games played, a far cry from the 115-point season he had in 21-22 with the Cats. He also was ranked as the worst contract in the NHL by various models on The Athletic, and it really doesn't look good. I mean, his rating was a D-, something like that, on the NHL efficiency spending article that we keep on referring to. The Calgary Flames have their work cut out for them in trying to make Jonathan Huberdeau an actually positively valued player when you consider the contract and how lackluster he has been whilst making that amount of money. He's very expensive if you haven't already been able to tell. Now, for Huberdeau, of course, there is a big reputation to uphold from his Panthers to Flames transition, and I feel like after last season, the one that just recently concluded, everybody's kind of already got that pre-established idea, hey, this guy's, like, done. He's not bad. Like, not the worst player in the world. He's certainly serviceable, and he's an NHL caliber guy, but he may just have the worst contract in the NHL at this point. It's so long and it's so expensive, and he does not have the point production to justify anything in that $10.5 million range. And so the question as to whether or not ELIAS Lindholm's contract is going to be as bad, that's kind of a trip. Now, Lindholm has the benefit of the doubt of not being as expensive. He's only making $7.7 million a year against the Boston Bruins cap, and while he is signed on till 2032, which takes him till he's 36 years old, I would say for ELIAS Lindholm, it's a little bit easier for him to get away with being maybe not as good as he needs to be to uphold that cap hit, mostly because he doesn't make 10+ million bucks. Also, the fact that he is a center, he's going to get this role, he will be the number one guy on C. Jonathan Huberdeau also had the benefit of the doubt of fitting into that top-line left wing spot. It's just, when he had played with Lindholm and all the other guys there, it really didn't work out in the ways that we thought it could. Huberdeau's offensive ability was completely neutralized playing for the Calgary Flames. ELIAS Lindholm was not really able to replicate the production he had either. It's kind of weird how everything kind of coagulates in this way. Honestly, like, Lindholm's best year in the NHL was alongside of Tkachuk and Gaudreau, and then Tkachuk and Gaudreau both leave in the same offseason. Lindholm sticks around, he doesn't produce as many points anymore, and he rejects a huge $8-point-something million contract extension. Like, he had a lot of opportunity to get more money, but he just kind of turned it away, and he didn't really get great results at the end of it all. Now, let's go back over onto the Twitter thread by Western Hockey Scout and read some of the replies over here. Essentially, the thesis is whether or not Elias Lindholm's contract is going to age as poorly as Huberdeau's. He already was a negative expected goals for percentage player in Calgary and Vancouver, while Huberdeau was a positive one. So is there a chance that Lindholm develops some sort of a similar reputation as the next season's worth of hockey goes on? Every day it brings me joy that he didn't sign a $9.5 million contract with the Flames, Kadim says. He's darn lucky Boston gave him that deal. He's worth about $4.5 to $5 million bucks. He could have left way more on the table even. He's never been a number 1C except for the 2 to 3 years he played with Gaudreau and Tkachuk. He is a number 2 right wing or a number 3C without major play driving wingers. Here's another few replies that go down the opposing perspective. Hockey Stan says, I wouldn't put it past Boston to somehow resurrect Lindholm into, 2018-2022 form. Boston and Vegas seem to have that ability on players. Pasta could make him look legit, but he was playing with good wingers in Vancouver and ended up as a 3C. Now, that is not really the most fair perspective to bring up, I think. It's tough to dethrone Elias Pettersson. It's tough to dethrone JT Miller. And I get it. There was a really good chance that Lindholm had to play on the wing with Pettersson. He just didn't really look all too great in it. And then it was kind of known that the value for Lindholm was probably better utilized as a center rather than a winger for Petey. I don't think it's a fair argument, but he was playing with some good wingers, I will say. Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua did do some very good things, especially in that playoff run. And Lindholm did too. He was a point-per-game guy for Vancouver in the postseason. It's just in the regular season, that's when he really didn't do much. He had a down year with nobody around him, Marchand for Art Ross says. He'll be fine this year. The reply is he played with amazing wingers in Vancouver to start and couldn't perform, so he was made a 3C. He was flat out bad last year. Offensively, he dragged people down. You just paid a third-line center $7.5 million. And then there are a little bit more replies that go out there and debate this. But honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like for the Boston Bruins, if there's any team that's going to be able to resurrect, so to speak, any kind of player like this, it would be the Bees. Right? They kind of have this uncanny ability to bring the best out of anybody, even though expectations could be seen as down low into the ground. So for Elias Lindholm, I certainly do think that he is good enough to maybe play in a pretty capable role alongside of David Pastrnak. The results recently have not been the best, and you have to kind of compartmentalize it, the sample sizes, if you really want to see what's the best that Lindholm can bring. The end of his Vancouver season was not great. He was injured, he wasn't really playing all too well, and then he came back, and then in the playoffs he was good, but he was a third-line guy, so he was getting really different minutes compared to what he's going to be getting in Boston. More opportunity for sure, and more ice time, but will that translate into better results and better numbers? Who really knows? Is there a chance that his contract ages as poorly as Jonathan Huberdeau's has had, and is it going to be reflected in point production or reputation first? Because for Huberdeau, I feel the reputation slowly came down after people realized, hey, this guy is not producing at a 115-point caliber pace at all. He's producing a lot less than that, and eventually his reputation caught up to him. So for Elias Lindholm, do y'all see similar things going down that path? Honestly, it's kind of crazy how each of these guys that were involved with the Calgary Flames seem to be going down and down. The only one that's actually been doing well was Matthew Tkachuk. But everybody else, Johnny Gaudreau left, and he isn't really doing all too well in Ohio. Jonathan Huberdeau is in Calgary, and he's not really doing well either. And now Elias Lindholm had that stint in Vancouver. He got paid in Boston, and now everybody's saying, okay, that contract is... that's going to be a contract for the next few years, eh? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Elias Lindholm and the idea of his contract being somewhat of a problem heading into the next few years. Do you agree with this perspective? Do you disagree? And do you think Jonathan Huberdeau is the comparable here in this magnitude of badness kind of conversation? That's a pretty poorly used word in that context. But either way, thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.